I am about to play you a clip of Bernie Sanders on Sunday's State of the Union with CNN's Dana Bash. Now, it's August. I get it. It should be called exhaust because we're all exhausted. We that doesn't work. August exhaust. I'm really sorry about that. That is not funny at all. Exhaust for August. Well, the point is, as you can tell, we're all exhausted in August. We don't want to think about Trump right now, especially his assault on the least fortunate and our most vulnerable. I get it. So just watch this clip of Bernie. It's everything you need to know. Then go back to whatever it is you're doing this month to maintain your sanity. The clip I'm about to play is your New Testament. Whenever in doubt, play this clip because unless you listen to and act on Bernie's words, you will remain forever mired in a froth of deflection masquerading as legitimate policy disputes. Look, I'm tired of talking about 2024, and so are you. It's time to move on, but the people who run the Democratic Party won't move on. They just paid $20 million to run an autopsy, but the people running that autopsy were forbidden from examining the role Joe Biden and Kamala Harris played in Trump's win. It's kind of hard to move on when your party is run by people who have zero skin in the game, who make money if the Democrats win or if they lose. So once again, I voted for Kamala Harris, and I would vote for her again in a heartbeat. But she was ashamed of Bernie Sanders, who, unlike Harris, busy promoting her book right now, Bernie is out on the stump with AOC on their Fighting Oligarchy tour, playing to sold-out crowds in deep red congressional districts, trying to flip them blue for next year's midterms. Nobody is working harder than Bernie and AOC to win back the Senate and the House of Representatives. I know. Some of you are exhausted hearing about Bernie. You say his time has passed, okay? And I know he's a broken record, and I'm a broken record. I know that. There are two things I've repeated since the election. Any postmortem on the Democratic Party's defeat in 2024 must take into account Kamala Harris being too ashamed of Bernie and Elizabeth Warren and AOC, and she was way too enamored of billionaires like Mark Cuban and celebrities like Oprah. While at the same time, she failed to issue a full-throated promise to tackle the fundamental struggles of ordinary Americans, okay? I don't want to hear Harris, being accused of allowing Trump to box her in on transgender athletes competing in high school sports. That's Democrats once again getting mired in a froth of deflection masquerading as legitimate policy dispute. It had nothing to do with why the Democrats lost. When it comes to addressing the needs of real America, Harris went on and on about affordability, and it drove me crazy. You know that if you listen to the show. I kept saying, stop talking about affordability. People need free health care, free education, free housing, not affordability. We don't want your opportunity economy. We want food, education, and a roof over our heads. Then maybe after that we can talk affordability. Affordability presupposes that the only thing voters care about is consumption. And all they want is to be able to afford to consume more things that in the end destroy our planet, make us fatter, and leave us spiritually empty. I kept saying, stop talking about affordability. Nobody would listen. But now, I'm starting to believe CNN's Dana Bash must watch my show because you'll see in the clip I'm about to play, she slipped in a sly dig at Harris during her conversation with Bernie, and I thought it was way too perfect for CNN. I think Dana Bash watches this show. Anyway, yes, Harris also lost because she was black. She was a woman. She is a woman. She She is black. And Elon Musk did whatever he did for Trump in the swing states to swing the election. On the last show, I talked about Sean O'Brien of the Teamsters refusing to endorse Kamala Harris because he didn't like her tone of voice. So, yes, she lost partly because she's a woman. President Kennedy famously said, quote, "Success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan." Now, Mussolini, I'm not making a joke, Mussolini's son-in-law is supposed to have said that first, but we'll credit Kennedy instead of Mussolini's son-in-law. Had Harris won, none of this would matter. But she lost. And there are several reasons. Transgender issues, not one of them. Again, she was a black woman. She was also a prosecutor. She was also a corporatist who didn't put the plight of our most vulnerable first. When you're leading with affordability and an opportunity economy, you are not connecting with at least half this country. At least half this country. You don't win elections campaigning on affordability or an opportunity economy when your opponent, Donald Trump, is promising no taxes on tips, no taxes on Social Security, higher wages for everybody after he satisfies our bloodlust by kicking 14 million immigrants out of the country because they're eating our pets and raping our women. Think about this. Trump promised to deport 14 million immigrants, which would pretty much destroy our entire agriculture, healthcare, construction, and home care industries. But the Democratic Party leadership says Medicare for all, that's not a winning message. You need to counter Trump's lies and his scapegoating with promises to improve the lives of voters. Promising affordability or an opportunity economy might have worked for Democrats in the 1990s when Clinton was running, but now it rings hollow, it rings false. So, this is all you need. It's Bernie Sanders Sunday on CNN with Dana Bash. It's everything you need to know about winning the midterms and taking back our country. Pay close attention to Bernie.
You said the Democratic Party has turned its back on the working class. You'd said something pretty tough when you were speaking to this crowd about Kamala Harris.
One of the reasons, in my view, that Kamala Harris lost this election is she had too many billionaires telling her not to speak up for the working class of this country.
Ouch.
Well, no, I don't think that's, I like Kamala, she's a friend of mine, but her core consultants, were heavily influenced by very wealthy people. How do you run for president and not develop a strong agenda which speaks to the economic crises facing working families? You have more income and wealth inequality today than we've ever had. You got 60% of our people living paycheck to paycheck. You got a healthcare system which is broken and dysfunctional. And despite spending so much, we're the only major country not to guarantee healthcare to all people. How do you not talk about those issues?
She talked about affordability.
Well, but in a vague, I don't want to rehash that campaign, but I think the clue to Democratic victories is to understand that you got to stand unequivocally with the working class of this country. You need an agenda that speaks to the needs of working people. Is it a radical idea that we join every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all people? Is that a radical idea? You tell me how many people are talking about that. It's a radical idea to say that we've got to raise the minimum wage to $17 an hour. It's a radical idea to say that in the midst of a competitive global economy, we need to make sure we have the best educated workforce, that all of our kids, regardless of income, should be able to get a higher education. These ideas exist all over the world. They don't exist in America. And they don't exist because of the power of the oligarchs economically and politically. All right, let's be clear, in my view. The current political system in the United States of America is broken and corrupt.
What else is there to say? That's it. That's all you need to know. For years, Bernie wasn't allowed on television because you can't argue with Bernie Sanders. He's right about everything. So they just didn't interview Bernie Sanders. They kept him off television until they couldn't. Failure to listen to Bernie is partly, if not mostly, why the D-bags won in November. They kept the House, they took the Senate, and the White House because Democrats refuse to address the fundamental needs of voters. And when a party ignores the plight of voters, that party will get broken apart, falling prey to wedge issues. What's killing the Democratic Party is the D-bags. The D-bags, the MAGA D-bags. They know there's nothing easier than dividing and conquering Democrats with wedge issues. If the Democrats put class issues, economic issues on the back burner, and instead become what they have become, the party that celebrates everyone's identity, that leaves the Democratic Party with absolutely no identity whatsoever. It's why Democrats now have their lowest approval rating in decades, 10 points lower than Republicans. The one thing the Democrats have going for them is identity issues. But when it comes to policy issues that cater to identity politics, they always go weak at the knees. Granted, they're strong on abortion. Some LGBTQ issues they're strong on, but they've gone wobbly on transgender issues. They're lost on DEI. They're lost on affirmative action. They're wandering in the desert when it comes to Gaza and Israel, and even immigration. They've crapped the bed on immigration. They can't even bring themselves to say our country is undergoing a population implosion and we need those people at the border. They can't wait to say immigration is what makes our country strong, but they refuse to teach. They refuse to say ICE must be abolished. They refuse to say we don't need more ICE agents. We need more immigration judges to process these people and get them where they're needed. It's incredible. A party that is all about identity is terrified of being accused of being soft on border security. So they've built a party, the Democratic Party has been built on identity politics, and except for abortion and same-sex marriage, they pretty much end up hemming and hawing when it comes to catering to all the other members of their coalition. When it comes to economic issues, which would bring everybody together, they're completely lost. They don't promise to raise the minimum wage. Forget Medicare for all. They won't even introduce Medicare for all children under the age of 18. All they're offering right now, heading into the midterms, is a return to the conditions that gave rise to Trump in the first place. Not good. Look, I get it. Netanyahu is committing war crimes in Gaza. Putin is committing war crimes in Ukraine. Exxon is committing crimes against humanity, waging war on our climate. ICE has been militarized so the for-profit detention industry can rack up record earnings with a budget larger than all our other federal law enforcement agencies combined. Democracy is under assault, so are women, children, people of color, and members of the LGBTQ community. But the Democratic leadership is offering the American voter no reason to vote for Democrats because the Democratic leadership has nothing to lose. Which is why, and I'm going to get into a little trouble saying this, a little part of me a very tiny part of me enjoys the idea of Trump threatening to arrest all the people who worked for Obama and Biden. I know it's wrong and it only spells doom if he gets away with it, but at least if Trump starts threatening to lock up people from the Obama and Biden administration, we can say to them, you didn't sense the urgency. You thought it was all just a game, so you preached moderation, patience, and incrementalism. You figured if worse comes to worse, I'm immune. Again, it would be horrible should Trump start locking up members of the Obama and the Biden administration. But the threat might put the fear of God into these Democrats, so they start giving Americans what Americans need so we don't fall prey to fascism. Little skin in the game might be nice for the Democratic leadership. So we're not going to stop any of this unless we, the Democrats, win either the Senate, the House, or both in next year's midterms. And you do that by listening to Bernie Sanders, by turning the Democratic Party into the party that speaks for the poor and the working class. Period. That's all. Politically speaking, Gaza, Ukraine, transgender rights, abortion, even the environment are wedge issues that the Republicans use to peel away voters by catering to tribalism. I'm not talking morality here. I'm talking politics. I'm talking about winning, okay? The Democrats try to win by being a party of many tribes, while MAGA wins by being the party of one tribe, rich, white, Christian, heterosexual males who used to own this country and now feel their entitlement has been stripped away. They're one tribe. Yes, I know poor people vote Republican, so do Hispanics, members of the LGBTQ community, even some black people, of course, women, Arabs, Jews, some of them vote MAGA, but only because they're stupid. They're self-hating, and they aspire to be accepted by the rich, white, heterosexual male Christians who run the Republican Party. So if you look at Trump's cabinet, the D-bags, look at Republican senators, Republican members of the House of Representatives, look at these D-bags. Yes, there are a handful of gay or black or Hispanic or Jewish or women Republican politicians, but what do all these outlier Republicans have in common? All of them. Every single one, from Randy Fine, the Orthodox Jew from Florida, to Lindsey Graham, the confirmed bachelor from South Carolina, to Senator Tim Scott, the black senator from South Carolina who's married but is still a confirmed bachelor, to Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia, a woman, I think. What all these people who are Republicans, despite being members of a marginalized community that their party delights in torturing, what they all have in common is they are stupid, amoral, self-loathing, rageaholics who can't feel alive until they're savaging in others what they hate inside themselves. So, Democrats are trying to be a coalition of 100 tribes. Republicans, they're just one tribe. White, Christian, wealthy, heterosexual men, and the self-loathing masochists who aren't, but want their approval. The genius of Bernie is Democrats can also be one tribe, the 99%. 99% of this country is either one paycheck away from homelessness or living in constant fear of homelessness, or has a close relative one paycheck away from homelessness, or a relative who is homeless. That is the political solution, turning the Democratic Party into one tribe, the 99%. Otherwise, the wealthy, white, hetero-Christian men who dominate the Republican Party will continue to hive off members of the hundreds of tribes that make up the Democratic Party. We are a nation of 350 million people. And if you try to win elections, segmenting voters, appealing to their individual tribal identities, the Republicans will always find wedge issues to divide us. The one thing that doesn't divide us is who the 99% are. We are not billionaires. That's our tribe. That should be our primary identity. Not asking you to give up your other identities. I'm just saying your primary identity, politically speaking, not morally, politically speaking, should be we are the 99%. This goes back to Occupy. Again, I'm not discounting how police kill unarmed black men or how police sexually assault members of the transgender community and all the other things that come with identity. Identity politics is necessary because Americans are persecuted based on their identity. But when it comes to politics, tribalism is tricky because it pits us against one another. Why? Because we live in a country where our economy is artificially finite because of the oligarchs. They've turned being able to find a job, being able to support yourself and your family, they've turned it into a zero-sum game identical to the admissions process at elite private colleges. You know, our economy is like trying to get into Harvard, which only accepts, 1,000 D-bags each year? It's finite. It's a zero-sum game. For every kid that wins entry into Harvard, hundreds lose. They don't get in. And our economy, because of the oligarchs, is like Harvard. Only a few get to participate. So we turn on one another to get into the schools or to get a job, and we become splintered. We break away from each other. It's all based on arbitrary, nonsensical standards, meaning nothing. We have to change. We are a nation rotten to the core because we've been convinced everything is a zero-sum game. If I don't get a job, you get a job. If my kid gets into a good school, your kid doesn't get into a school. It's become a zero-sum game where in order for me to win, somebody else has to lose. As Bernie said, other countries aren't like this. It's all about dividing us so we don't challenge the oligarchs. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. Thank you to Bob and Mila in the chat room for keeping the conversation civil. I will see everybody tomorrow. Leave a comment. I read all your comments.